I'm not touching
Awesome, man. Hey,
All right.
I'm with my man here, Mr. Mike Diamond. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you, brother.
Talk about long time coming. This is so exciting right now.
Yeah, you made it happen because you made the first introduction.
Well, I needed to make it happen, man. I saw you blowing up on social media. I was like, I got to get this guy on, man. Animal, machine.
I'm trying.
We're here with a specific purpose, though. Today
Yep.
we're going to talk about a flexible mindset
Yep.
and why it's important,
Yep.
why it's even a topic. First and foremost, let's do a proper introduction. So, author, television personality, maniac, fitness, and influencer. All of these titles that you've earned over the years, and I say earned because nobody gave you anything.
Nothing.
So, if I missed something, please jump in
Fill
here.
in.
But all of these things that you've done over the years, you've written books, you've overcome some health and physical challenges, and not only that, but you've built a business. You're a speaker now, and you're not speaking about anything that you've necessarily studied more than what you've experienced. And a flexible mindset is one of those things.
Correct.
So, what does a flexible mindset mean to you?
Well, where it came about was I started to get involved in, the first book I really read that really blew me away, two books when I was younger at acting school, was The Road Less Traveled, Dr. Scott Peck, which was amazing, and Wayne Dyer, Your Erroneous Zones. Those two books were like, wow, all about positive thinking and, really understanding thought and what you should do with it. So that big movement that came along with the growth mindset, which I love, because that fixed mindset, like you're born with a certain IQ, you have a certain amount of talent, and that's it. And that's what I grew up with. But I never really believed that. I never believed in the traditional IQ because from day one, I always knew it was about people and connecting. And the traditional, do math, do comprehension, and the time they set to do things never worked for me because I'm dyslexic. So I, from an early age, kind of figured out that, and I didn't really know much about it till I started reading and studying, that like if I can work out people and understand people, and I didn't know what emotional intelligence was, but it's the basis of emotional intelligence, then I can survive wherever I go. So I never really looked at a degree. My degree was I want to know me. I want to figure out what's inside of me. And if every time someone told me you can't, if I believed intuitively I could, I would just try to figure it out. And so as a kid, I didn't have all what we had was like encyclopedias and a few books. But, born in Perth, you had nothing because Perth was so dated back then when I was born. When a movie came out in America, it came out like 2 years later in Perth.
Wow.
That's how backwards it was.
Yeah.
So I really had to, and I didn't understand law of attraction, visualization, but I would dream. I would actually visualize with such detail coming to America. And then if I watched a movie, or like, say it was like Taxi Driver or something, I thought, oh man, that's New York. I'm like, oh, that's where I'm going to go. And I would like try to study the streets, like where's the Bowery and where is CBGB's, and so it became like, and I didn't read like Think and Grow Rich till later, but when you listen to Napoleon Hill and he talks about those visualizing when he had his round table of people. Mm-hmm. So when I started to like, where it really came home for me was when I got sick when my appendix burst. It was like the rubber has to hit the road, 50-50 chance of living. Doctors didn't give me a shot. I'd healed myself from the ulcerative colitis because when I first got diagnosed, they basically said to me, taking your colon out, your colon's a mess. Now, it was genetic, but you got to remember, I did a lot of partying. You know what I mean?
That might have something to do with it.
You're drinking a lot of alcohol and doing a lot of cocaine, it's going to mess up your stomach. Then on top of that, from years of trauma and stress, I was living, in my lower energy centers, so I was always in fight, flight, or freeze mode. Then I took on jobs in New York that were crazy in the club business. I was always highly stressed. Even though I was meditating and doing stuff, I was adrenaline. And if you live in those stress hormones, your gut is destroyed. So when I got diagnosed, I got a colonoscopy. I knew it was bad. It was kind of like they gave me all these drugs. They gave me the prednisone, which is horrific. And then it's like you're watching the commercial for the ulcerative colitis, whatever, the Crohn's, and you're like, every side effect, like it's the joke, like your also will bleed, this will happen, that will happen, you grow 3 heads, I'm like, I've got every side effect. So it was like one of those things. I bought a book and it said, listen to your gut. Studied the book. I said, I'm going to heal myself. Then my appendix burst. I go into septic shock. He's like, I'm taking your colon out. I'm like, absolutely not. I'll figure this out. And then it was really good because I was like, okay, am I going to be one of those guys that talks about it, or can I do this? Am I that good? Can I really heal myself? And then I started to get into, I read a great book, Carol Dweck, Mindset, loved it. And I read Angela Duckworth, Grit, great book. And they were talking about growth mindset, which I love. It's great. And then I sort of started to think about it, and I was like, well, actually, to me, if I can survive this, it's not just growth, it's being flexible. It's being the palm tree in the hurricane. It's being malleable.
Explain that philosophy, because I've heard you talk about it.
So what it is like it was one of those days, and I was literally watching some YouTube stuff, and I was just watching, I don't know why, I just went on storms. I don't watch a lot of YouTube, but I was like, went on, it was like storms. I was watching these palm trees, and I guess it was like that great part in like American Beauty when the kid watches the bag float everywhere.
Yeah.
It's that beautiful scene, and you're just swept away, and you're like, watch this bag, and you're just watching how free it is. And I was watching this palm tree, and I'm just like, oh, I wonder when it's going to snap, Stage 5 palm tree, and it's just bending. I'm watching, and it's bending, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and, I'm struggling through my stomach issues, and I'm like, it's bending, and I'm like, it's got to snap. It doesn't break, and I'm like, hold on. So I get on Google, and I'm like, palm trees, and I'm like, oh my God, a palm tree doesn't break in a hurricane. It bends. I'm like, that's a flexible mindset. I was like, you have to be able to bend. You have to be malleable. You have to have the ability to be so flexible in your mindset that when you face adversity, you can always find a way to weather the storm, because the storm's going to show up.
Guaranteed.
100% the storm's going to show up. So I just started to go, okay, I was like, well, I believe in the growth mindset. I love it. But I'm like, if you grow too much and you're not flexible, you pull a muscle.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have both. You have to have the growth, but then you have to have the flexibility. So for me, it was like, all right, this is where the rubber hits the road. I have to go out and I have to heal myself naturally. Otherwise, my book, nothing makes sense. I have to go out. And the biggest thing for me was to take a mindfulness approach to everything. Really study the energy centers. I started to go into the solfeggio frequencies, which are different energy centers. And if you study energy centers and you go way back, I'm talking, we're talking Socrates time. A lot of the frequencies they chant different frequencies to heal. And the solfeggio, the Italian frequencies, are all based on the different centers of the body, the chakras. So I really started to study the energy centers and how they worked, and mindfulness, and then started to base like different principles. Some people say, to me, it's positive psychology, Stoic philosophy, a little bit of cognitive therapy, and NLP.
What is NLP?
You just threw me off there. Sorry. Neuro-linguistic programming, which is to me, it was like the neuro-linguistic programming, and some people go, oh, because Tony Robbins is all about it, and I love it. Because, well, cognitive therapy is great because it's thought. NLP is all about subconscious. So I think if you can use the NLP stuff, they do a lot of work with anchoring, which I love. You know what I mean? Reprogramming, and then cognitive therapy, which is the Socratic questioning. You know what I mean? If you can put the two together, you program the subconscious mind and you do inventory, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot behind that subconscious because it's at work when we're not.
Yes.
And it's not focused upon because it's operating when we're asleep or when we're on autopilot. When we're driving home and somebody cuts us off and we're like, ah, that subconscious, it's programmed feeling. It's been programmed over the years.
Yep.
But that programmed feeling, the subconscious, is the one that takes over when a what do they call it? Like a disaster strikes, the hurricane, so to speak. The hurricane can be as small as somebody cutting you off. It could be as big as a disease or whatever. But problem is, what our subconscious is what reacts initially. Adopting that flexible mindset, from what it sounds like, allows you to stop for a quick second,
Yep.
and then proceed. That is one thing you talk about in your book, which is a great philosophy, the stop method. And I want to explore that, but not just yet. Going deeper into the flexible mindset, to me, the opposite of flexible is rigid.
Or
Rigidity,
fixed,
standard. That, to me, is being a stubborn person. I'm a Taurus, so a little bit of a stubborn personality. It's something that I feel like we have to focus on in order to explore, adopt, and really utilize.
Yep.
When you first became aware of it, reading the books, you saw growth in the books, and then you saw the hurricane, the palm tree. What helped you connect the dots, and how did you start to apply this in your personal life?
I guess when you don't know, I mean, what does it say? You truly know who you, what is it, Aristotle, a man is truly, what is it? It's a great quote. I don't want to mess it up, but it's something along the lines that we reveal who the true character of a person when they're faced with adversity, whatever that quote, it's something like that. I don't know the exact quote, but I think, when you see someone get something, like people get frustrated, right? And they say, oh, this person got this and this person got that. I'm like, yeah, but if they didn't earn it, they won't keep it. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, it's not about the resources. It's about how resourceful you are.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, when I hit the wall, whether it's, I said, well, health sucks. I mean, my stomach is pretty bad. Like the last, say, week, get up at 3:45, 4 o'clock in the morning. I could be in the bathroom 8 times before 8 o'clock. Most people won't use the bathroom that much in a week, but I can still run 7 or 8 miles and do 30 miles on a bike. Do you know what I mean? So what I do is then I flip my mind over saying, every step when I'm running, I'm healing. Every mile I ride on the bike, I'm healing. Every weight I'm lifting, I'm healing. So I reprogram myself, because otherwise I'm a victim.
That's the alternative, right?
I can't get out of bed.
Either you fall into that, mindset and say, well, I'm sick, so I can lay on the couch and be sorry for myself. Some people will call me and visit me, maybe, maybe not. Or you could do what you've done, which is research, adapt, overcome, recalibrate whatever direction you were headed in. It's no longer there. You've got to figure out a different direction.
And I think for me, I don't need a lot of information. So it's like if I read, like when I read Man's Search for Meaning, you read a book like that. You got Viktor Frankl. He loses his parents and his wife with an unborn child, right? 3 concentration camps. I mean, unless if I'm on lockdown at Pelican Bay, San Quentin, even then, I think a concentration camp's worse.
It's pretty bad.
I don't want to say prison's not a bad thing. Is it easy? But I would rather take prison over concentration camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to face that a prison's still civilized in a way. So you go, a guy, all right. So I go, how did this guy? He's the palm tree. He found positive psychology, logotherapy, in Auschwitz. Okay, so then I just shut down and say, okay, stop. Because I think when people feel pain, when people feel things aren't going against them, that's when I go outside. Okay, that's when I get information. That's when I read something. That's when I ask for help. You know what I mean? That's when I search. I go, okay, I need information here. Because right now I'm feeling sorry for myself because my stomach's a little off. Do you know what I mean? Emotionally, I don't care who you are. If you've got a stomach ache and you're crapping your pants out, you don't feel like, a ball. You feel horrible.
Right.
Okay? So that's when I have to go, okay, I've got to really take this moment by moment, be flexible because I'm not going to feel positive. But now I've got to find a way to feel positive and I've got to let it pass. So when I read stuff, for me, the mental diet has to be people that have faced adversity. It has to be people that I go, wow, if that guy could pull it off, well, look at this. Look outside. It's sunny California. Really? Do you know what I mean? Like, suck it up.
Yeah. It's easy. It's easy for us. We don't ever account for the weather, right? Like, come on. Let's be real. Something that strikes me is that in today's world, we have so many people who are, I don't want to call them phony. I don't want to knock anybody who's spreading any kind of positive message because I think the more positivity that's out there, the better. But there's an influx of people who are saying but not doing.
Correct.
They get weeded out pretty quickly, and it's pretty clear who's doing and who's not doing. But I think people are starting to catch on, and people want to see a role model, whether they had somebody, a parent or both parents walk out on them, whether they had people, if they were bullied, picked on, if they just didn't have any good examples. They would watch TV and see sports figures and be like, wow, that's great, but then would go home and only see, whatever they saw. People need models. They need role models. And not role models in a sense of the high and mighty. It's more about really role models in how to navigate the negative, the storm, the hurricane. And what you're doing is that you're living that role model life and being transparent about it and saying it's not just you talking. We are talking right now, but this isn't you just talking. This is what you've lived. And that's what impresses me about you is that you're willing to take on that role in order to show people that it's possible. That to me is more valuable than getting online and putting some, motivational quotes from somebody else. I think people are inspired by it, but people also, from a perspective, or from a different perspective, is there's challenges in our lives. Everybody has challenges. And as I mentioned earlier, it could be a traffic stop. It could be a very serious disease and anywhere in between the spectrum. How we react to those challenges requires a flexible mindset. And both of those things, having a role model to show you that it's possible and then giving you some practical steps is one of the reasons why we're here.
Yeah.
So if we're to say, let's start at ground zero and say we don't have any knowledge of any kind of growth mindset, positive mindset, flexible mindset. We're sitting here green. And I want to start moving in the right direction.
Okay.
What is my first step in getting towards that goal of being better than I am today?
How old are you?
Well, currently,
But no, if you're asking, like if someone was, say it was a call,
yeah.
and you're like, I'm lost. I'm like, how old are you? Well, that's the first thing I ask someone. How old are you? Give me an age. Say the person says, let's throw an age out.
Okay, 26.
Perfect. Where do you live?
Glendora, Los Angeles.
Great. Okay. Do you have a job?
Yes,
Okay. Do you live at home?
with the parents.
Okay. So what do you do?
I work at Starbucks
Okay. Why?
because I'm paying my way through college.
Okay. What are you studying?
Human psychology.
Why?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I've heard there's some money in it.
Perfect. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to start asking questions. I want to figure out, first of all, your environment. Glendora, who are your parents? Why did you make these choices? What got you here? So, for example, wherever I am in this very moment, and this is the hardest pill for people to swallow, is I've manifested this reality. I've manifested it by how I choose to think. Therefore, how I feel. Therefore, how I act. So to shift into a flexible mindset, you have to shift perception. And how do you shift perception? By taking responsibility for who you are in the moment. So if I can take full responsibility for who I am this very second and say, I have manifested myself through the law of attraction right this second. I chose to be here, which most people don't want to accept that they've chosen that reality. If you take that responsibility, then you go, okay, I can move forward because I'm responsible. Most people are going to say, it's because of my height. It's because of my hair. It's because of my color. It's because they're going to come up with 20 different excuses. Instead of saying, I'm going to take responsibility. I've chosen all this. Right? My lack of education, I'm dyslexic. It's whatever it is. It's always something. But once you say, I am going to take responsibility, I've chosen this, then you can grow. Because the perception, you shift it. Now, all right, so what am I interested in and why?
Before we move on to that, I
Yeah.
do want to explore the responsibility piece because I think that's groundbreaking.
Yep.
It sounds basic. Well, of course, we accept responsibility for our actions and XYZ. But do we really?
Good question.
Have we really owned what we've become to this day? A number of us have faced adversities, whether it be abused as a child, bullied as a kid in school, been, whatever. Name the adversity, okay, through the years. Lost a job, girlfriend, boyfriend broke up with us, had some sort of setback financially, made some bad investments, any number of adversities that we faced. Have we really taken responsibility for those? And if you are not responsible for those things, let's say you were abused as a child, that's not something you did to yourself. You didn't ask to be born into this family or put in this situation. Yet there's still responsibility to be taken. And I think that's the level of mindset that we have to get towards.
Correct.
But not taking responsibility as in, I caused this, but taking responsibility more like ownership and saying it happened years ago. Not that I should forget about it. Definitely deal with it. You need to address it. But who are you today?
Yep.
And that, I think, is the ownership piece, responsibility and ownership.
Well, I think when you talk about responsibility, I'm never responsible for what you do to me. I'm responsible for how I choose to react.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not responsible for my parents. I can only move forward from what's happened. Is it easy? Of course not. But let's break down reality, like the gutmost of reality. The gutmost of reality is you're going to die. I'm going to die. End of story. Some people say death and taxes. A lot of people don't pay taxes, unfortunately. Okay?
Yeah.
So death. So let's look at another gut wrencher. I can never, ever, ever go back in time. I can never change what's happened. I can only grow right? And move forward and create the future I want by how I choose to think, feel, and act. So if I take that adversity and flip it and say, oh my God, how amazing is this? I faced all that and I made it through. Then the next challenge, the next test is going to be a layup because I've already faced it. That's why I never get angry if someone says, you know, oh, did that guy got all that? I'm like, perfect. Well, I'm like, he hasn't got my grit. He was given it. Perfect. He doesn't know what it's like to have lactic acid burn out his chest. He doesn't know what it's like to run a half marathon and have to wear a diaper because he shit himself on mile 10 because I'm a grown fucking man. And I talk about this stuff so if a poor person out there has colitis, they don't get embarrassed. They're like, wow. Because on the outside, yeah, I've got the tattoos, the man bun, I look pretty jacked, but you don't know what my guts is like. So I talk about this stuff openly so that one person doesn't feel like ashamed. Because I'm not ashamed of it. How can you be ashamed of it? I have this incurable bowel disease, right? Okay, so I'm not going to be ashamed of it. Do you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like I have to take responsibility for who I am in the present moment at all times.
Yeah. Because you can't control what happens to you, but you can always control how you react to it.
That's it. And if you, and anyone, so let's go back. Young kid wants to grow. Okay, where you at? Why are you there? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? Why do you want to achieve it? Right? So let's break it down. The simplest thing, you know, I'm going to go back to, you know, there's a lot of people you say, it's funny you said that because I was reading this thing. I like Tony Robbins. I personally like him. I don't have any issue with him. I like him. Okay. A lot of people think, you know, oh, he's full of this, he's full of that. Okay.
However, if those people met him, I'm sure they would change their tune.
Well,
it's just people who like to talk shit.
Right.
So.
But a lot of people say it's all hocus pocus. I'm like, hold on. People go out and join the gym in January and never go to the gym. Is that 24-hour fitness's problem?
Definitely not. I mean,
I'm angry at 24-hour fitness because they put a commercial up about their gym.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony Robbins goes out, does seminars, and pumps people up. Well, what's he supposed to do? Kick you in the balls? So he pumps you up.
Yeah.
Right? He gives you tools. Oh, well, it's all bullshit. Oh, hold on. But you've got a bunch of doctors out there that when you go to see him, just write you a script for some meds. Where's the therapy?
There's no outlash on that.
But he's got a degree. Okay, so this guy doesn't have a degree, but he's trying to be positive. And this guy has a degree on paper, but all he does is prescribe you meds. Every doctor I've gone to says, take your colon out, you're going to die of cancer. So, okay, do I listen to that guy? No. Do you see what I'm saying? So It's like a lot of people lash out at people, but he's not doing anything bad. He's just being positive. He's just spreading the word. You know, does the rubber hit the road with him? I don't know. I've never hung out with the guy. Do you know some people get upset because he does this thing called priming and, you know, he does this priming thing 10, 12 minutes and people say, oh, it's all hocus pocus. I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe for some people it does work. Maybe that kind of priming. I can do a 10-minute mindfulness meditation with deep diaphragmatic breathing. I'd use a little Wim Hof, a little box breathing, and I'll have you on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you see what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where are you now? Close the gap. Okay? Forget everything that's happened to you, and let's look at how to reprogram your thinking to become flexible, and then go on a strict diet, and I mean a mental diet. Change everything. Everything you were doing, flip it on its head. Okay? You know what I mean? So I get up at 8, get up at 5. Right? Why? That's 4 o'clock in the morning, between 1 and 4 is when your melatonin peaks. That's when your pineal gland is open, your intuition is the highest. Start getting up that early. What? Just do it. Because everything else you're doing is, you know, you're living at home, you're 26, and you're working at Starbucks, and you said you're miserable. Okay, so let's flip it. Do you know what I mean? Let's get out of there. You're 26. There's guys out there making $1 billion at 26. Yeah. What are they doing? They're not sitting at home, and they're not getting up at, 8 o'clock. Kill all excuses. All excuses. So when I was having the baby, right, it was a choice. I mean, this was the best thing. So I'm involved in it, 2 restaurants in New York. If I don't go back to New York, baby comes premature 7 weeks. If I don't go back, I know the businesses are folding. I know that for a fact. I'm looking at my wife, baby 7 weeks premature. I'm like, I can't do what my dad would do, which my dad was never there for me. My dad never showed up when he needed to show up. He made money. He was never there. He never watched me win a running race. I won medals and championships. Never there. Couldn't take one Saturday off. You can't get back that time. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll walk away from the businesses. Then I started commuting 8 hours a week to teach a bunch of kids in a lockdown. Right? In the middle of Death Valley. Because I'm like, I've just got to figure this out. So I'd get in the car, drive 4 hours there, 4 hours back, and I was doing it 3 days a week. And the guys that ran the facility were the worst. When you talk about all talk, no action, the worst. All talk. The facility was so run down, disgusting, horrible. I'm like, I want to move on. And then I got a gig speaking full time with this incredible guy called Al. He has Impact Canine Solutions. He does all the drug dogs in the schools. He said, look, I've got a pilot program. I said, I'm in. Let's do it. We got in with Glendale. We're in Glendale, Alhambra, Riverside, Marina Valley, and we do an anti-vaping, anti-drug talk to the kids, which is great. So I jumped into that, and then it's been like on fire with the book and everything else. So it's always adapting. Do you know what I mean? Just kill the excuses.
Yeah. Adaptation is crucial too, because if we're talking about being flexible is one thing, but then adapting to that new direction is that next level.
Yep.
And that might be for a future episode. However, let's take it out with this. If we're going to adopt a flexible mindset,
yep,
and we understand, well, let's take it back even one more step, is we must understand that adversity is going to come at some point in our lives. It doesn't have to be that we face adversity daily, but something is going to happen in our lives that's going to challenge us. And things aren't going to work out the way we had originally planned. Whether you lose a job, relationship, disease, any number of things. What questions, you asked me a series of questions as if I'm a 26-year-old working at Starbucks, but what series of questions can we ask ourselves today to really gauge whether or not we're prepared in order to face these adversities and become more flexible?
Okay, so here's some guarantees in life. We're going to age, and there's going to be seasons. Okay? Now, we're lucky here in California that we don't get a heavy winter. But this year we got some rain. Okay? First time in a long time we got rain. I lived in New York for a long time. When you're in the middle of February in New York and it's a cold winter and you start complaining about the winter, why are you in New York?
It's a good question.
Right?
Yeah.
People are complaining it's raining out here. I'm like, it's raining? You're complaining about the rain? You know what I mean? It's like, so we know there's going to be seasons. Seasons change, okay? So then life is going to have seasons. We're going to get older. Things are going to change. The economy is going to change. So it's our ability to then say, okay, so I'm going to plant some seeds, okay? And in those seeds, in my garden, I have to make sure I water and fertilize different things. So let's look at my health. Okay? Neglect your health, you get sick. Let's look at my spirituality. I've got to have core values and I've got to be doing something spiritual. Okay? Principles to live by. Okay, so then let's look at my personal relationships. Now, if you're a young kid and you don't have a wife or a girlfriend, you're still going to have friends. Okay, but if you're a little older and you have a wife and you have kids or you're going to have a family, that's a lot of responsibility. So I've got to water and fertilize those relationships. Now let's look at my career. Okay, what am I doing for work? What am I trying to do and why? Okay, that's another garden, another vegetable in the garden that I have to water and fertilize. Okay, so you've got to talk about 4 different plans going on there. Now, in those things, so let's say health, your health plan, you're going to get sick. You have to get sick. But are you prepared? Right? So let's have a look at this. Do you have insurance? If you don't, why? Okay? That's basic. You should have some insurance, right? Okay?
You're talking to an insurance guy, by the way.
There you go. Exactly. But right? True, right? Now, let's look at the other way. So let's look at spirituality. Because spirituality is part of your mental health. Okay? Are you taking care of yourself mentally? Everyone always says, well, when I make the money, then I'll do it. No.
Completely backwards.
All you're gonna do is make it. All right. So you go out, you make $1 billion. Okay. You didn't water the garden and fertilize your spirituality. Right. Your mental health's gonna be shot. You didn't worry about your health. Your health's gonna be shot. You didn't worry about your personal relationships. You're going to be alone. Right. You have no friends. You have no family. So you live in a castle by yourself with $1 billion, and you get sick. What happens? You're gonna spend all that money trying to get yourself better again.
Yeah.
Right? And all you're going to do, because remember, this is the reality. You don't ever save a life. You postpone it to have more longevity. But at the end of the day, you're going to die. So why would you be miserable? And you know what I mean? So do the things to have a good life, a good quality life, and have the right people around you, and water and fertilize those relationships. But it all starts with me first. So if I can get my shit together mentally and spiritually and physically, and I take care of myself, and I'm grounded, right? Do the flip side. I'm resentful. Everything sucks. I'm angry. Everyone pisses me off, right? So, you know what I mean? What do you want to feed?
Yeah.
Because if you start drinking that tonic, you're a fixed mindset. You don't take responsibility. The world's, messed up. I was working with an agency. Like, we were doing this stuff for Layla. And they were horrible. Everything they said was all bullshit. I knew it was all, I could tell in my gut. And we ended up getting rid of them. And they took no responsibility for how bad they were. And it's okay, because I'm used to doing that. And then I've got a partner and a friend, Dara, who's like the greatest human being in the world. The greatest human being in the world. She just gets it done. You know what I mean? She just gets it done. Bang. No problem. So it's like, if we can look at all those relationships and then take responsibility for our side, and it's like, and just keep working on those relationships and fertilizing it. Nowadays, if you're prepared to do the work, and life shows up, you can't fail. You just change the plan. I sell real estate, 2008, 2009, everything, belly falls out, right? Okay. Do I change careers, or do I do a lot of smart people do? What do? In the recession, in the depression, people buy. There's so many businesses started, Forbes magazine, like all these things started when, Disney was in the Great Depression. It was all these, things, when things are the worst, that's when you can shine. You rebuild. And so many people rebuild. Yeah, it's Pareto's law. 20%, 80%, right? 20% of Italy owned 80%. Look at the world we live in.
Yep.
You're either going to be the leader, or you're going to be the follower. But you don't then... Like, I learned this years ago. I was in a job, and I worked for a guy who was a dick. He was. Not a good guy to work for. I was young. I was 16, and I had no shame. I took so many jobs. That's when kids won't work now. I'm like, I don't care. I delivered pizzas. I actually worked in a pizza place, delivered pizzas, and then gave my little brother my pizza delivery job. It was great. We all looked at the place called Ziggy Pizzas. It was the best. But I was in the fruit and veggie place, a supermarket. And the guy I worked for was such a dick that every Friday we'd want to go out and drink and whatever. And I was young. I was drinking at 13, Jesus. But I was like 15, 16. And he would make me de-shell and all the stuff, the onions. So I stunk of onions. I'd sit there scrubbing. I'd go to a bar and I would stink of onions. He was such a dick. And everyone would complain about him. And there was a dude that worked there and he never complained. And I was like, isn't this guy a dick? He said, let me tell you something. Get another job. I said, why? He goes, do not complain. I was like, greatest lesson I learned. Instead of complaining about the guy I work for, create another opportunity.
Practical.
Take responsibility.
Flexible.
Get out of it.
Yeah.
Right? The guy's just being him. My
Right.
job is not to change anyone. It's like if I have an opinion on something, right? It's like sobriety, right? 13 years sober today. No one, when I got sober, I had the best mentors. They're still my best friends. They were all 12, 14 years sober. I was friends. They were sober. I was using. When I got sober, go to meetings. Don't go to meetings. Shut up. Get a commitment. Okay. Give out the coffee. Shake people's hands. Shut up. Read the book. Okay. Shut up. In the sense of like, keep it simple.
Yeah.
And I learned the best lesson because I was opening nightclubs, doing shows. I got an offer. I was 90 days sober to open a nightclub. And I went to the guy that was my sponsor. And everyone in the meeting was like, if you open a nightclub, you'll relapse. I was like, I don't want to drink and do coke. So I went to him and I said, I got this deal. It was a lot of money to open this nightclub. And he's like, okay, what's the problem? It's what you do. Open it up. I'm like, yeah, but everyone says I'm going to relapse and boom. And he's like, okay. And he's like, do you want to drink or do coke? I was like, no, I'm done. I'm completely done. I knew I was done. I was done. He's like, okay. So then I said, yeah, but everyone goes, shut up. Other people's opinion is not your reality. You could be a tennis coach. You could be a teacher. If you're going to use, you're going to find a way to use.
Yeah.
You're either going to use or you're not going to use. Do you want to really stay sober? I said, yes. He goes, then go. And so I was 3 meetings a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I didn't relapse. A lot of people changed careers but didn't work their sobriety. I'm 13 years sober today. They relapsed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't, it's not the environment. I chose to drink and do cocaine.
Yeah. Regardless of what was going on around you, you made those decisions.
It's my choice. No one held me down. Let's go back to Viktor Frankl. I'm not in a concentration camp. No one has my head, on the table, pouring liquor in my mouth, shoving cocaine up my nose. That's what I did.
Right.
I was blowing up my life. You know what I mean? Because I was taking the trauma and firing and wiring it, you know what I'm saying? And saying, oh, well, poor me, screw the world, I'm just going to go blow shit up. That's my responsibility. I chose that. I don't regret it because it's part of my story. Would I, if I went back in time? That's why I work hard with people that are using. And I'm like, look, just recently, I think I told you, someone hit me up and talking about a fixed and flexible mindset. Oh my God, this guy goes to me. I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not like that.
Sure.
But he reaches out to me and he literally says, my life is unmanageable. Can't stop drinking. Can't hold down a job. Can't hold down a relationship. He's 38. I said, okay. And he's like, and I met him and I kind of know, he's an alcoholic. Let's be honest, right? And takes no responsibility. And I'm like, but then I send him some information. He goes to meetings. He's 9 months sober. He goes, oh my God, you're right. I'm an alcoholic. No problem. Then turns it. Starts drinking again, asking me for favors. I'm like, I don't really know you. You're a friend of the family, but I don't know you. You just reached out to me because my dad and your dad are friends. And every bit of information I've given him. Now I coach people and anything I give them, and I'm not giving them something to harm them. I'm giving them something to help them. Every tool I give them, they use and they're successful. I work with guys at North Hollywood who are one of my sponsors. They're great guys. Dude, these guys go from doing okay in the sales to top sales guys. Right? So I'm like, okay. Literally starts posting pictures of him and his dad drinking beers.
After approaching you to help
me to
him
get sober. Now, I have people that hit me up recently a good friend of mine, Yoji, that I lived with for 8 weeks when we shot New York King, killed himself. He struggled with his drinking. We lived together for 8 weeks. It was horrible. We'd had long conversations about it. I've had another guy the same week, in a rehab, heard another podcast I did with a picture of him slashing his wrists. I have people that mean the world to me that are going through divorces that really are suffering, with their alcoholism and drug addiction. And this guy has the balls to do that and then thinks it's a joke. And I'm like, dude, this is not a joke. If you want my help and you've got a drinking problem, you got to stay sober. You know what I mean?
It's the responsibility piece. It's really what you're doing as a coach, as a mentor, as somebody who cares. What you're doing is offering the guidance, but you can't do the work. And that's where anybody that's listening right now can take that into account, because people can give you, like I talked about motivational quotes on Facebook or Instagram. You could scroll and look at that motivational quote and say, wow, that's so profound, and then move on. Or you could take it, if it's practical advice or something adopted into your mindset, so that going forward, you can face those challenges and adversities and take the action necessary. And that's what taking responsibility, taking ownership, having a flexible mindset, because things aren't going to always go your way, and then taking the action, doing the work. Doing the work is part of it. It's not all of it. There's things that lead up to it, and then there's things after doing the work. Continuing to be flexible, continuing to adapt. But that's where I'd like to kind of offer this as to take us out today, is the doing the work piece, taking responsibility. If we just start with those two steps, already shifting the trajectory of your future.
Massive. I would, look, book to read, Obstacle is the Way, Ryan Holiday.
Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Great book. Because the obstacle is the way. Find growth in the obstacle. Find flexibility. Face the obstacle and flip it on its head. You've got, look, do this. Sign up for something that is way out of your comfort zone. If you don't like running, sign up for a marathon. Because at the end of the day, it's 26.2 miles. Whether you're a housewife or a CEO, you can't bullshit 26.2 miles.
That's true. You got to do it.
You ain't running that on natural ability. Now, a lot of people say, well, David Goggins ran 100 miles, right? David Goggins went through 3 hell weeks before that and was a legit Navy SEAL before he did that. David Goggins didn't get off the couch. David Goggins could barely run, and 3 hell weeks put himself through to get through.
Right.
So forget the David Goggins. James Lawrence couldn't run 5K. Yes, he did 50, 50, 50. Now, there's Dean Carneses that ran 30 miles, off a bar stool, but it took him 9 hours on his 30th birthday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's some freaks, but my point is this. Sign up for something like a marathon or something so out of your comfort zone and figure it out. And I guarantee when I'm doing this and commit to it, it will show you where you need to work.
I love it.
Right?
We'll take it out with that. Mike Diamond, man.
Thank you, brother. Awesome.